What's up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of High Mythology, the show where we get higher than a party at the Sky God's place and tell you guys silly stories from mythology and folklore. Tonight, we will be jumping into some Brazilian fairy tales. Lots of good Brazilian stuff.
I got 6 stories for you tonight.
6 stories.
I hope you guys like them.
I hope you like it, because there's 6 of them. Yeah. It's going to be fun. I'm a story virgin on this one going into it. I have no clue about any of these stories.
No, not at all.
No, so kind of typically you'll be getting to hear me react a lot more as they surprise me. But yeah, without further ado, Kimbo, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Thank you. Story 1. Years and years ago, at the very beginning of time, when the world had just been made, there was no night, it was always day. No one had ever heard of a sunrise or a sunset, starlight or moonbeams. There were no night birds, night beasts, or any night flowers. There was no lengthening shadows, nor soft night air heavy with perfume. In those days, the daughter of the great sea serpent who dwelt in the depths of the sea married one of the sons of the great earth race known as man. She left her home amongst the shades. She left her home amongst the shades of the deep sea and came to dwell with her husband in the land of daylight. Her eyes grew weary of the bright sunlight and her beauty faded. Her husband watched her with sad eyes, but he did not know what to do to help her. She moaned as she tossed wearily on the couch. She said,
"Oh, if I would only come. Oh, if only I could come still. Oh, if night would only come. Here, it is always day, but in my father's kingdom there are many shadows. Oh, for a little of the darkness of night, this thing I've never seen before."
Her husband, between her legs, was listening to her moans and asked her,
Yeah. "Oh, what's this night you're talking about there? Tell me about it, and maybe I'll go get a bag of it for you down at the corner store."
the daughter of the great sea serpent said.
"Oh, night is the name given to heavy shadows which darken my father's kingdom in the depths of the sea." It's such just shadows down there. Look, it's night over there behind that thing. I love the sunlight of your earth land, but I grow weary of it. If we could have only a little of the darkness of my father's kingdom to rest our eyes, just take a little nap. Part of the time, just part of the time, not all the time.
Her husband at once called his 3 most faithful slaves.
Damn, bro.
And he told him,
"Oh, hey there, I'm about to send you on a journey there. You're to go to the kingdom of the great sea serpent down there who dwells in the deeps of the sea, and ask him if he'd give you up some of that darkness of night that he keeps hoarding down there. That his daughter may not die here amid the sunlight on the earthland."
The 3 slaves set forth from the kingdom of the great sea for the kingdom of the great sea serpent. After a long and dangerous journey, they arrived at his home in the depths of the sea and asked him to give them some of the shadow of night to carry back to the earthland. The great sea serpent gave them a big bag full at once. It was securely fastened, and the great sea serpent warned them not to open it until they were once more in the presence of his daughter, their mistress.
Sounds like drugs. Don't hope the fucking cops put that shit in your pocket.
The 3 slaves started out bearing the big-ass bag, full of night upon their heads. Soon they heard strange sounds within the bag, but it was the sounds of voices of all the night beasts, of all the night birds, and of all the night insects.
Hey,
if you have ever heard...
I want to kill stuff.
What?
Night beast.
Okay.
Good, carry on.
Okay. If you have ever heard the night chorus from the jungle on the banks of the rivers, you will know how it sounded. The 3 slaves had never heard sounds like those of their whole lives.
What the fuck? I'm freaking out!
They were terribly frightened. The first slave said, "Oh, let us drop this bag of night, and then let's fucking run away as fast as we can." The second slave cried, "We shall perish! the third slave says, whether we perish or not, I'm not going to open this bag and see what makes all those terrible sounds. Accordingly, they laid the bag on the ground and opened it. Of course. And out rushed the night beasts and the night birds and all the night insects, and out rushed the great black cloud of night. The slaves were more frightened than ever at the darkness that had escaped into the jungle. The daughter of the great sea serpent, who was waiting anxiously for the return of the slaves with the bag full of night, ever since they had started out on their journey, she had looked for their return, shading her eyes with her hands and gazing away into the horizon, hoping that all with her heart that they would be hastened to bring the night. In the position, she was standing right under the royal palm tree. When the three slaves opened the bag and let the night escape, she said,
I have come. Oh, so is the night, though. The night has come at last.
Woo!
Woo.
And as she saw the clouds of night upon the horizon, she then closed her eyes and went to sleep there under the royal palm tree. When she awoke, she felt greatly refreshed. She once more was a happy princess who had left her father's kingdoms in the depths of the great sea to come to the earthland. She was now ready to see the day again, and she looked up at the bright stars shining above the royal palm tree and said, as she yawns,
Oh, bright, beautiful star, henceforth you shall be called the morning star, and you shall herald the approach of the day. You shall reign as queen of the sky at this hour, but only for this hour.
Then she called all the birds about her and said to them,
Fucking birds, you're so wonderful, you sweet singing sons of bitches. Henceforth I command you to sing your sweetest songs at this hour to herald the coming of the day.
The cock was standing by her side, and she said to him,
Oh, you big, beautiful cock, let me put you in my mouth hole. I mean, you shall be appointed the watchman of the night. Just standing there all erect. Your voice shall mark the watches of the night, and shall warn others that the madrugada comes.
To this very day in Brazil, we call the early morning a madrugada. The cock announces the approach to the waiting birds, and the birds sing their sweetest songs at the hour of the morning star reigns in the sky as the queen of the madrugada.
The queen of the morning wood.
Sweet. We were not done.
Nope, it's still going. There's still more story.
A couple more.
It's more than just a cock joke.
When it was daylight again, the three slaves crept home through the forest and the jungles with their empty bags. Their master said,
Oh, faithless slaves there, why did you not obey the voice of the sea serpent down there and open the bag in the presence of his daughter and whatnot, your mistress? Because of your disobedience, I'll change you into monkeys henceforth, and you shall live in the trees. Your lips will always bear the mark of the sealing wax, which sealed the bag full at night.
To this very day, no one sees the mark upon the monkey's lips where they bit off the wax, which sealed the bag. And in Brazil, night leaps out quickly upon the earth, just as it leapt quickly out of the bag. In those days, at the beginning of time, and all of the night beasts and the night birds and the night insects give a sunset course in the jungle at nightfall.
Those wonderful, wonderful night beasts.
Story number 2.
Story number 2.
How the rabbit loses his tail.
How did the rabbit lose his tail?
Once upon a time, ages and ages ago, the rabbit had a long tail, but the cat had none. She looked with envious eyes at the ones which the rabbit had, but was exactly the sort of tail she longed to have. The rabbit was always a thoughtless, careless little beast. One day, he went to sleep with his beautiful long tail hanging straight out from behind him. Along came Mistress Puss, carrying a sharp knife, and with one blow she cut off Mr. Rabbit's tail. Mistress Puss was very spry, and she had the tail nearly sewed on to her own body before Mr. Rabbit saw what she was doing. Mistress Puss asked,
Well, don't you think it looks better on me than it did on you?
The generous, unselfish rabbit replied.
That very surely is very becoming to you. It was a little too long for me anyways. And I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll let you keep it if you will give me that sharp knife in exchange for it.
The cat gave Mr. Rabbit the knife, and he started out into the deep forest with it. He said,
I've lost my tail, but I've gained a knife. I'll get a new tail or something else just as good for trade for this knife here.
Mr. Rabbit hawked along through the forest for a long time and at last came to a little old man who was busy engaging in making baskets. He was making the basket out of the rushes, so he was biting them off with his teeth. He looked up and spied Mr. Rabbit with the knife in his mouth, and he said,
Oh, please, will you not be so kind as to let me borrow that there sharp knife you are carrying? It's very hard to bite these rushes off with my 2 teeth.
Mr. Rabbit let him take the knife. He started to cut off the rushes with it when snap went the knife, and it broke in half. The rabbit cried,
Oh dear, what shall I do? What shall I do? You have broken my new knife.
The little old man said that he was very sorry and that he did not mean to do it. Then Mr. Rabbit said,
Well, a broken knife is of no use to me, but perhaps you can use it, even if it's broken. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll let you keep the knife in exchange for one of your baskets.
The little old man gave Mr. Rabbit a basket, and he started on through the deep forest with it. He said,
I lost my tail, but I gained a knife. I lost my knife, but I gained a basket. I'll get a new tail or something else just as good.
Then Mr. Rabbit hopped along through the deep forest with a long time until he at last came to a clearing. Here there was an old woman busily engaging in picking lettuce. When she had gathered it, she put it into her apron. She looked up and spied Mr. Rabbit hopping along with his basket. She said,
Oh, please, Mr. Rabbit, will you not be so kind as to let me borrow that nice basket you're carrying?
Mr. Rabbit let her take the basket. She began to put the lettuce into it when it fell out the bottom of the basket. Mr. Rabbit said,
Oh dear, what shall I do? What shall I do? You have broken the bottom out of my nice new basket.
The old woman said that she was very sorry and that she did not mean to. Then Mr. Rabbit said,
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll let you keep the broken basket if you will give me some of your lettuce.
The old woman gave Mr. Rabbit some of the lettuce, and he hopped along with it, saying,
I lost my tail, but I gained a knife. I lost my knife, but I gained a basket. I lost my basket, but now I got this fucking lettuce.
The rabbit was getting very hungry, and how nice the lettuce smelled. He took a bite, and it was just the very best thing he had ever tasted in all of his life.
What the fuck?
And he said,
some good shit. I don't care if I did lose my tail. I found something I like very much. Nom, 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 nom.
And from that day, to this day, no rabbit has ever had a tail. Neither has there ever been a rabbit who cared because he had no tail. From that time to this time, there had never been a rabbit who did not like lettuce to eat, who was not perfectly happy and contented if there was plenty of it.
Yeah, fuck the tail, give me the lettuce. That's the moral of the story.
Is that?
I think so.
I mean, I guess. That's not what I was gonna.
Mistress Puss is ruthless. That's the moral of the story. Bitch will chop your tail and sew it onto her own body before you know what happened.
She didn't have a tail. She just thought, let me put it right by my asshole.
Yeah, let me sew this
Tails
thing
would have been
right
in
by
a
my
whole
asshole.
different place.
Tails were coming out of foreheads before that. Awesome.
All
On
right.
to story 3, how the toad got his bruises. He was abused.
He was an asshole.
It was domestic violence.
He's an asshole. It's okay. Once upon a time, ages and ages ago, the toad had a smooth skin, and in those days he was a great gad about it. He never could be found in his own house. If anyone had a party, he was sure to go, no matter how far away from his home it was held, or how long it took to get there. One day, the toad received an invitation to attend the party in the sky. The armadillo, his friend, says,
"You can never get to this party. You know how slowly you travel here on the earth."
The toad said,
"Wait and see whether or not I get to this party."
Not far from the toad's house, there lived a big black buzzard. Nobody liked the buzzard. He was very unpopular with all the birds and beasts. The toad hopped over to the buzzard's house. The buzzard was outside his door making music on his violin. The toad says,
"Hey, what's up? Good morning, Buzzard baby. Are you going to attend the party in the sky?"
The buzzard replied that he was planning to go, and the toad said,
"That's good. May I have the pleasure of the company of your company on my trip?"
The buzzard was delighted to have the toad seek his company. It was a new experience. The buzzard replies,
"I'd be charmed to go to the party with you. What time shall we start?"
The toad says,
"Yo, we'll start around 4 o'clock. Come by my house and we'll go from there. Be sure to bring your violin with you."
Promptly at 4 o'clock, the buzzard arrived at the toad's house. He had the violin with him, and, of course, because the toad had asked him to bring it. The toad called out,
"Hey, I'm not quite ready yet to go. Just leave your violin there by the door and step inside. It'll only take a minute to finish up this shit I'm taking. It's a big old doozy."
The buzzard laid his violin carefully outside the door and went inside to the toad's house. The toad jumped through the window and hid himself inside the violin.
Sounded like you said chode.
Toad's house.
The chode jumped out and hopped.
The chode, jumped through the window and hid himself inside the violin. The buzzard waited and waited for the toad to get ready, but he did not hear a word from the toad. Finally, he got tired of waiting, and he picked up his violin and started. When he arrived at the party, he was a trifle late, but he had explained how he waited for the toad. His host joke, and say,
"How foolish for you to wait for the toad to take a shit. How could the toad ever get to a party in the sky, Perumph? We just invited him as a joke because he is such a great gad about him. Lay down your violin and come feast with us."
The buzzard lay down his violin. As soon as there was no one looking, out hopped the toad. As he was laughing from ear to ear, he said,
"Hey, so they thought I wouldn't come to the party? What joke! How surprised they'll be to see me here."
There was nobody at the feast who was as gay about the toad. Oh, what? There was nobody at the feast who was as gay as the toad. When the buzzard asked how he arrived, he said,
"I was fucking some dudes."
And then he went on to eating and dancing. The buzzard did not have a very good time at the party. He decided that he would go home early. He went away without saying any goodbye to any of his hosts, without taking his violin with him. At the end of the party, the toad hopped inside the violin and waited for the buzzard to take him home. Nobody picked up the violin, and the toad began very much to be worried. He almost wished he had not come. And after a while, the falcon noticed the violin, and he said,
"The violin belongs to the buzzard. He must have forgotten to take it home. I'll carry it back for him."
The falcon flew towards earth with the violin. The toad shook as terribly inside in the violin, and he got very tired. The falcon got tired too, and he said,
"I'm not going to carry this fucking violin anymore. Fuck the buzzard. I was foolish to offer to carry it in the first place. Buzzard's no friend of mine. Rock."
He let the violin fall. Down and down towards earth it fell. The toad called as it fell,
"No! Oh, little stones, get out of my way."
The little stones had deaf ears. They did not hear him yell, "Get out of the way." When the toad crawled out of the wrecked violin, he was so covered with bruises that he could hardly hop home. The buzzard never knew what became of his violin or why the toad had lost his good looks. To this very day, the toad shows his bruises, and he is entirely cured of being gad about
it. Fuck you, Toad. What you get for being all happy.
Dang.
Damn, son.
What do you think? Like, is this weird shit?
There's some weird shit. It's interesting, though.
I mean, you gotta learn how it started, right?
Yeah. I like that the Toad wanting to go to the party.
I want to go to the party, bro.
I'm going to stash in your violin and do some cocaine.
Woo! All right.
Story
4.
Story number 4.
How the tiger got his stripes.
How the tiger got his stripes. We're learning how everyone got everything.
Because he's an asshole.
Because he's an asshole. That's how he got his stripes.
Once upon a time, long, long, long ago, the tiger had no stripes upon his back, and the rabbit still had his tail. There was a tiger who had a farm, and the farm was very much overgrown with underbrush, and the owner sought a workman to clear the ground for him to plant. The tiger called all the beasts together and said to them when they assembled,
I need a good workman at once to clear my farm of the underbrush. To the one of you who will do this work, I offer an ox as payment.
The monkey was the first one to step forward and apply for the position. The tiger tried him for a little while, but he was no good at workman at all. He did not work steadily enough to accomplish anything. The tiger discharged him, and very soon, and he did not pay him. Then the tiger hired the goat to do the work. The goat worked faithfully enough, but he did not have the brains to do all the work well. He would clear a little of the farm in one place, and then he would go away and work on another part of it. He never finished anything neatly, and the tiger discharged him very soon without paying him either.
Fucking hey, tiger doesn't pay.
Next, the tiger tried the armadillo. The armadillo was very strong, and he did the work well. The trouble with him was that he had such an appetite that there were a great many ants about the place that the armadillo could never pass by a sweet, tender, juicy ant without stopping to eat it. It was lunchtime all day long with him. The tiger discharged him and sent him away without paying him anything.
Problem was the armadillo was a little racist.
And at last the rabbit applied for the position. The tiger laughed at him and said,
Why, little rabbit, you are too small to do the work. The monkey, the goat, and the armadillo have all failed to give satisfaction. Of course, a little beast like you will fail.
However, there was no other beast who applied for the position, so the tiger sent for the rabbit and told him that he would try for him for a little while. The rabbit worked faithfully and well, and soon he had cleared a large portion of the ground. The next day he worked just as well, and the tiger thought that he had been very lucky to hire the rabbit. He got tired staying around to watch the rabbit work, and the rabbit seemed to know just how to do the work anyway, without orders. So the tiger decided to go away on a hunting trip. He left his son to watch the rabbit.
Tiger Jr.
And after Tiger had gone away, the rabbit said to the tiger's son,
Hey, buddy, which axe is your father going to give me? Is it the one marked with a white spot on both its ears, right?
The tiger's son replies,
Oh no, he is red all over. Just a tiny white spot on his right ear.
The rabbit worked for a while longer, and then he said,
Hey, tiger kid, the ox which your father is going to give me was kept by the river, right?
The tiger's son replies, yes. And the rabbit had made a plan to go and get the ox without waiting to finish his work. Just as he had started off, he saw the tiger returning, and the tiger noticed that the rabbit had not worked so well when he was away. After that, he stayed and watched the rabbit until the whole farm was cleared, and then the tiger gave the rabbit the ox as he had promised. He said to the rabbit,
You must kill this ox in a place where there are neither flies nor mosquitoes.
So the rabbit went away with the ox, and after he had gone for some distance, he thought he would kill him. He heard a cock, however, crowing in the distance, and he knew that there must be a
Bo!
farmyard near. There would be flies, of course. So he went on further again and thought that he would kill the ox. The ground looked moist and damp, so he thought that the leaves on the bushes... What? The ground looked moist and damp, and so did the leaves on the bushes.
Bush leaves.
Since the rabbit thought there would be mosquitoes there, he decided not to kill the ox.
Just keep it moving.
He went on, and finally he came to a high place where there was a strong breeze blowing. He said to himself,
There's no mosquitoes here. The place is so far removed from any habitation that there's no flies, neither.
He decided to kill the ox. Just as he was ready to eat the ox, along came the tiger, and he said,
Oh, Rabbit, you've been such a good friend of mine. And now I'm so very, very hungry that all my ribs are showing, as you yourself can see. Will you not be a good friend and kind rabbit and give me a piece of your ox?
The rabbit gave the tiger a piece of the ox, and the tiger devoured it in a twinkling of an eye. And then he leaned back and said,
Is that all you're going to give me to eat?
The tiger looked so big and savage that the rabbit did not dare refuse to give him any more of the ox. The tiger ate and ate until he had devoured the entire ox. The rabbit had been able to get only a tiny morsel of it. He was very, very angry at the tiger. One day, not long after, the rabbit went to a place not far from the tiger's house and began cutting down big staves of wood. The tiger soon happened along and asked him what he was doing. The rabbit replied, Sorry.
I'm getting ready to build a stockade around myself. Haven't you heard the orders?
The tiger said that he had not heard any orders. The rabbit says,
That's very strange there. The order has gone forth that every beast shall fortify himself by building a stockade around himself. All the other beasts are doing it.
The tiger became very much alarmed, and he said,
Oh dear, what shall I do? I do not know how to build a stockade. I could never do it in the world. Oh, good rabbit. Oh, kind rabbit. You are such a good friend of mine. Couldn't you, as a great favor, because of your long friendship, our long friendship, just yours, build a stockade about me before you build one around yourself?
The rabbit replied that he could not think of risking his own life by building the tiger's fortifications first. Finally, however, he consented to do it. The rabbit cut down great quantities of large, sharp sticks, and then he set them firmly in the ground about the tiger. He fastened others securely around and over the top of the tiger, and he was completely shut in by strong bars. Then he went away and left the tiger. The tiger waited and waited for something to happen to show him the need of the fortifications, but nothing happened at all. And then he got very hungry and thirsty, and after a while the monkey passed that way. The tiger called out,
Oh, monkey, has the danger passed?
The monkey replied that he did not know what danger the tiger meant. The monkey did not know what danger the tiger meant, but he replied yes. Then the tiger said,
Oh, monkey, oh, good, kind monkey, will you not please be so kind as to help me out of my stockade?
The monkey replied,
Fat chance. Let the one who got you in there help you out.
and then he went on his way,
Fucker. Sucks to suck, nerd.
as he flips him off along the road. Along came the goat. The tiger called out.
Oh, goat, has the danger passed?
The goat did not know anything about any danger, but he replied yes, all the same. The tiger then asked,
Oh, goat, oh, good, kind goat, please be so kind as to help me out of my stockade.
The goat replies,
Bah! No.
and he went on his way. Along came the armadillo, and the tiger called out.
Oh, armadillo, has the danger passed?
The armadillo had not heard of any danger, but he replied that it had passed. Then the tiger said,
Oh, armadillo, oh, good, kind armadillo, you've always been such a good friend and neighbor. Please do help me get out of my stockade.
The armadillo replies,
We don't help your kind,
And then
Orangey.
and then he went on his way. The tiger jumped and jumped with all of his force at the top of the stockade, but he could not break through. He jumped and jumped with all of his might at the front side of the stockade, but he could not break through. He thought that never in the world would he be able to break out. He rested for a while, and then he rested. As he rested, he thought. He thought how bright the sun was shining outside. He thought what good hunting there was in the jungle, and he thought of the cool of the water at springtime. Sorry.
Springtime.
Once more, he had jumped and jumped with all of his might at the back of the stockade, and at last he broke through. He did not get through, however, without getting bad cuts on bad sides from the sharp edges of the staves. Until this day, the tiger has the stripes on both of his sides.
That's why the tiger's got stripes.
Got fucked up by the rabbit.
Got fucked up by the rabbit. And that's why you don't fuck with the rabbit.
Rabbits are cruel.
They used to have tails.
That one did.
As we've learned tonight.
Huh.
On to story number 5.
What's it called?
Why the lamb is meek.
Whoop. Once upon a time, there was a little lamb frisking gaily about the pasture. The bright sunshine and the soft breezes made him very happy, and he was just finishing a hearty meal that had made him happy too. He was the happiest little lamb in all the world, and he thought that he was the most wonderful little lamb.
I'm so wonderful.
The big toad sat on the ground and watched him after a while. The toad said,
Hey, little lamb, how you feeling today?
The lamb replied that he had never felt better in all of his life. The toad said,
Well, even though you're feeling good, I can still pull your ass into the sea and drown you, bitch.
The little lamb laughed and laughed until he had rolled over on the ground. The toad said,
Just take hold of this rope and I'll show you how easy it is to pull you into the sea.
The lamb took hold of the rope, and then the toad said,
Now wait a minute while I get a good long distance here. I can pull better when I'm not too close.
The lamb waited, and the toad hopped down into the sea. He hopped up and into a tree which hung over the water's edge, and from there he hopped onto a whale's back. He fastened the end of the rope around the whale, and then he called out to the lamb,
Already. Now we'll see how hard you can pull.
And when the whale felt the lamb pulling at the rope, he swam away from the shore. No matter how hard the lamb pulled or how much force he exerted, he did not do one bit of good. He was dragged down into the water's edge as easily as he could be. And the lamb said as he reached into the water's edge,
I give up.
After that, although the sunshine was just as bright as ever, anyone who watched the little lamb could see that he was a little more meek. One day, not long afterwards, the sunshine was again very bright, and the little lamb was again feeling frisky. He was so happy and gay that he had forgotten all about how the toad had pulled him down into the water, until the toad spoke to him, and then it ruined his day.
Hey, little lamb.
And he totally fucking remembered.
How you feeling today?
The little lamb replied that he was very well. Do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do.
Very well.
The toad said.
Hey, let's run a race. I bet I can beat you.
The lamb says.
You may be strong enough to pull me into the sea. Surely I can run faster than you. I've watched you hopping about all willy-nilly in my pasture. You can't run fast at all. However, I'll gladly run a race with you to prove what I say. Meh.
The toad set a goal and told the lamb to call out every little while during the race so he can see how much further ahead the lamb was. Then the toad and the lamb started. The toad had assembled all of his brothers and all of his sisters and all of his cousins, his uncles and his aunts before the race, and they had stationed them at various points along the path of the race. He had told them that whenever any of them should hear the lamb calling out, Laculé, 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 the toad, which was nearest, should answer, Gulugu bongo, bongole.
Bongole.
The lamb ran as fast as he could, and then he remembered his promise and called out,
Black-a-lay, lack-a-lay, lack-a-lay.
He expected to hear the toad answer from a long, long distance behind him, but he was much surprised to hear the one nearest answer.
Gululu bongo, bongole.
And after that, he ran faster than ever. After running on for some distance further, the lamb called out again.
Lack-a-lay, lack-a-lay, lack-a-lay.
And again, he heard the answer at only a short distance away in front of him.
Gululu bongo, bongole.
He ran and ran until his little heart was beating so fast that it seemed as if it would burst. At last he arrived at the goal of the race which the toad had set, and there sat the toad's brother, who looked so much like him that the lamb could not tell them apart. The lamb went back to his little pasture very meekly and quietly, and he acknowledged that he had been beaten in the race. The next morning the toad said to him,
Hey, even though you didn't run fast enough to win the race, still you were a very fast runner. I've told the daughter of the king about you, and I said that someday she shall see me riding on your back with a bridle in your mouth as if you were my horse, my little bitch horse.
The lamb was very angry and said,
Perhaps you were strong enough to pull me into the sea. Perhaps you could beat me when we run a race, but never, ever in the world would I be a fucking horse.
Time passed, and the sunshine was very bright, and the soft, gentle breezes were very sweet. The lamb was so happy again that he forgot about how the toad had pulled him into the sea, and how the toad had beaten him at running the race. He was very sorry for the toad when he saw him all humped up and in a disconsolate little heap one day. He asked,
Oh, poor toad. Are you sick? Isn't there something I could do to help you?
The toad told him how very sick he was. He said,
There is something you could do to help me, but I don't believe you're quite strong enough or can travel quite fast enough to do it.
The lamb took a deep breath and blew out his chest, and he said,
I'll show you. Just tell me what it is.
The toad replied that he had promised to be at the party that afternoon at the house of the king's daughter, and he said that he did not see how he could possibly get there unless someone would carry him. The lamb said,
Jump on my back. I'll carry you.
The toad shook about on the lamb's back, and after they had started, so that it seemed that he would surely fall off. And after a little while, the toad said,
Hey, I can't possibly ride like this. Just all my sore spots. I'll have to get off.
He tried a little while longer and shook about worse than ever. Then he said,
I think I could endure this painful ride a little bit longer if only I had something to hold myself on to. Do you mind if I take a piece of grass and put it in your mouth? Can hold on to that when I shake about and my sore spots won't hurt as much.
The lamb let the toad put the piece of grass in his mouth. And after a while, the toad asked for a little stick. He said,
Hey, the flies and mosquitoes are bothering me. If only I had a little stick, could wave it about over my head and frighten them away. It is very bad for anyone in my weak, nervous condition to be bothered by flies and mosquitoes.
And the lamb let the toad have a little stick to wave over his head. At last, the lamb and the toad drew near the palace of the king. The king's daughter was leaning out the window watching for them. The toad dug his feet into the lamb's sides and pulled hard on the piece of grass in the lamb's mouth and waved the little stick over the lamb's head. And he cried,
Go on now, horse, go on.
And the king's daughter heard him. She laughed, and when all the rest of the people in the palace saw the toad arriving mounted on the back of the lamb and driving him like a horse, they laughed too. The lamb went meekly home to his pasture, and from that day, when one wishes to speak of meekness, one says, As meek as a lamb.
As meek as a lamb, that little bitch lamb that got ridden by the toad. Made fun of in front of everybody.
So sad.
Go home and cry, lamb.
Well, when they're babies, they're just assholes.
Yeah, they are. They taste so good.
They do. I love that shit.
On to the final story of the night.
I hope y'all are enjoying this.
I hope you're enjoying this. I hope you've had fun. The story is why the tiger and the stag fear each other. I think that's more of a one-sided relationship.
That's actually an interesting story. All right. Once upon a time, there was a large, handsome stag with great branching horns. One day, he said to himself,
Hey, I'm tired of having no home of my own and just living anywhere. I shall build myself a house. Yeah, I'm just a wandering drifter with a tuft of chest hair hanging out of my unbuttoned shirt here.
It's a stag.
It's a stag.
He's not wearing a shirt.
He is. He's wearing a button-up denim shirt.
He's searched on every hill and every valley, by every stream and under all the trees for a suitable place. At last he found one that was just right. It was not too high, not too low, and not too near a stream, and not too far away from one. Not under too thick of trees, and not away from enough trees, and out under the hot sun. He said,
Hey, I think I'm just going to build my house here.
And he began to clear a place for it at once. He worked all day and did not go away until night. Now, in that same country, there lived a large, handsome tiger, meow, with sharp teeth and bright, cruel eyes, meow. One day, the tiger said to himself,
I'm tired of having no home of my own, just living around anywhere. I shall build myself a home.
Bachelor pad.
Build myself a bachelor pad.
Accordingly, the tiger searched for every place to build his house. He searched on every hill, in every valley, by every stream, and under all the trees. At last he found a place that was just right. It was not too high, not too low, not too near a stream, yet not too far away from one. Not under too thick of trees, and yet not away from the trees out of the hot sun. The tiger said to himself,
I'm going to build my house here. This place is all ready for me, for there isn't much underbrush.
And he began at once and finished clearing the place. Then it became daylight, and he went away. At daylight, the stag came to do more work on his new house, and he said when he looked at the clearing,
Someone's been helping me here. The place is cleared and ready for me to build the foundation.
He began to work at once and worked all day. At night, when the foundation was laid, he went away. At night, the tiger came to work on his new house, and he said when he looked at it,
Someone is helping me. The foundations of my house are laid.
He began to work at once and built the sides of the house. He worked all night and went away at daybreak, leaving the house with all the sides completed, and there was a big door and a funny little window on the side. At daybreak, the stag came back to work on the house, and when he saw it, he rubbed his eyes, for he thought that he must be dreaming. The sides of his house were completed with a big door and a funny little window, he said.
Hey, somebody must surely be helping me.
As he began to work to put on the roof, he worked hard all day, and when he went down, there was a roof of dried grass on the house. He said,
Hey, I can sleep in my own house tonight.
He made his bed in the corner and soon was sound asleep.
Just sleeping here all masculine and sexy.
At night, the tiger came back to work on his new house, and when he saw it, he rubbed his eyes, for he thought that he must be dreaming. There was a roof of dried grass on the house. He said to himself as he entered the door,
Somebody must be helping me.
The first thing he saw when he entered the door was the stag sound asleep in his bed in the corner. He said in his deepest voice,
Who are you and what are you doing in my house?
The stag woke up with a start, and he said,
Bro, who are you and what are you doing in my house?
The tiger says,
It's not your house, it's my house. I built it myself.
The stag says,
No, it's my fucking house. I built it myself.
The tiger says.
Well, I made the clearing for the house. I built the sides and made the door and window.
The stag says.
I started clearing, and I laid the foundations and put a roof on of dried grass.
The stag and the tiger quarreled all night about whose house it was. At daybreak, they decided that they would live in the house there together. The next night, the tiger said to the stag,
I'm going hunting. Get the water and have the wood ready for the fire. I shall be almost famished when I return.
The stag got the wood and water ready, and after a while, the tiger came back. He brought home for dinner a great handsome stag. The stag had no appetite at all, and he did not sleep a wink that night. The next day, the stag said that he was going to go hunting, and he told the tiger to have the wood and water ready when he got back. The tiger had the water and wood ready, and by, the stag came back, bringing with him the body of a great tiger. The stag said,
I'm nearly famished. Let's have dinner and go make love on a bearskin rug.
The tiger hadn't any appetite, and all he could was not eat a mouthful.
All he wanted was the sex.
Some hand stuff. That night, neither the tiger nor the stag could sleep a wink. The tiger was afraid the stag would kill him if he shut his eyes for a minute, and the stag was afraid the tiger would kill him if he slept, even pretending to be asleep.
And they have that awkward moment after they just banged, but they still have to be roommates. Ooh. Well, that was awkward. I'm going back to my room.
Accordingly, he kept wide awake too. Towards morning, the stag got very cramped from being kept in one position for so long that he moved his head slightly, and in doing so, his horns stuck against the roof of the house, and it made a terrible noise. The tiger thought the stag was about to spring upon him and kill him. And so he made a leap for it out the door and ran out as fast as he could. And he ran and ran until he was far, far away from the house with the roof of dried grass. The stag thought that the tiger was about to spring upon him and kill him. So he too made a leap for the door and ran until he was far fucking away from the house with the roof of dried grass.
No, I don't want to talk about it.
And the tiger and the stag are still running away from each other to this very day.
To this very day.
The house with the roof of dry grass waited and waited there in the place, which was neither too high nor too low, nor too near the river, nor too far away from the river, nor not too thick under trees and out of the hot sun. It waited and waited until it got so tired that it fell down in a heap.
In a heap.
And that is all.
And that is all.
Enjoy.
Very nice. Very nice.
Enjoy my beginnings.
Enjoy my beginnings and take my leavings.
Yes.
Yeah. That was,
I hope you guys enjoyed it.
That was fun. Some Brazilian fairy tales there. Yeah, that was from a Brazilian folklore book by Alina Ingrand.
Heyo.
Heyo. Yeah. Hope you folks enjoyed it. We had a lot of fun with it. For sure.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. If you haven't already, be sure to check out our merch store.
Yes.
We got all kinds of goodies.
It's fun stuff.
Cool looking coffee cups.
I designed
stickers.
those myself.
Yeah, Kim designed the art.
You let me know of any
Yeah.
other ones you want me to do that were special to you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You can find it at teespring.com/high-mythology-merch. Yeah. Check it out. Let us know what you think. As always, we'll be back next week with some more great stories. I think we're doing Sumerian next week.
Mesopotamia.
Mesopotamia. Yeah. So yeah, check us out and have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.